100 Gode Start a Kaiwa. Starting this video off, we have a very interesting piece of Wii lost media. 100 Gode Start a Kaiwa is a cancelled Wii game that was mentioned one singular time by Nintendo and then it just vanished off the face of the internet. So, the first time we would ever hear about this game was on October 2nd, 2008. At this point we were 4 years into the DS's lifespan and 2 into the Wii's. Among many different topics discussed and games announced at this press conference, 2 are of importance today, both of which were co-developed by the Japanese company NHK. NHK is Japan's national public broadcasting organization. It's the equivalent to the UK's British Broadcasting Corporation. NHK runs multiple TV and radio channels, including NHK General TV, which covers news, entertainment, and cultural programming, and NHK Educational TV, which focuses on learning and documentaries. These 2 games that NHK would develop with Nintendo became NHK Kohaku Quiz Gassen and 100 Gode Start a Kaiwa. NHK Kohaku Quiz Gassen was developed by NHK Enterprise and would actually eventually end up releasing in 2010, a year later than it was projected to release. This title is based on NHK's long-running and iconic New Year's Eve television event Kohaku Utai Gassen, aka Red and White Song Battle, which features 2 teams of popular Japanese singers competing in musical performances. The Wii adaptation turns that familiar red vs. white concept into a family-friendly quiz competition with some additional game modes too. The game notably featured Mii character support and also had a very large file size considering how many short video clips would play alongside quiz questions. Now, the other game was co-developed by NHK Educational, which is the lost media in question. 100 Gode Start a Kaiwa was the unreleased game developed in collaboration between Nintendo and NHK Educational. The title roughly translates to Start English with 100 words and was based on NHK's English learning television program of the same name. It was first announced in October 2008 during that conference, marking it as the only time Nintendo would ever reference this game. Nintendo described the title as a family-friendly language learning experience designed to help users practice basic English vocabulary and conversation skills in an interactive, approachable way. According to Nintendo's presentation materials and screenshots, the project was intended to use the Wii Remote and Mii characters to create a more engaging learning environment. It would feature a variety of lessons and activities based on NHK's 100-word curriculum, a method focused on teaching key English words and phrases used in everyday conversation. The tone and design were meant to reflect NHK's distinctive teaching style, polite, structured, and suitable for all ages, much like their educational programs. Following its reveal, 100 Gode Start a Kaiwa appeared in Nintendo's internal and investor release lists through 2009, marked as a tentative title and labeled as unscheduled. This confirmed that the game was still in planning or development stages. However, by late 2010, the title was removed from Nintendo's release schedules and investor documentation, with no follow-up announcement or press release from either company. If I had to guess what happened to this game, it was probably cancelled because developing 2 fairly big games with NHK could have just been too large of a workload. I've played NHK Kohaku Quiz Gassen, the NHK game that would eventually release, and man, the sheer amount of content in that title is pretty crazy. Could content from 100 Gode Start a Kaiwa be repurposed for this game? In my opinion, yeah, probably, but it's hard to know for sure considering just how obscure this game is. Very few sites actually talk about this title, which is kind of surprising to me because this game looks very interesting. E3 Wii Line. In the early days of YouTube, Nintendo-related content was extremely rare and the history of the platform's first Nintendo videos is surprisingly complex. For a long time, many assumed that the oldest Nintendo video still available was Nintendo Show, uploaded by user GSLin on June 17, 2005. This video, featuring a Mario performance, is actually the 197th video ever uploaded to the platform. And while it's not the absolute first Nintendo video, it's the oldest one that still exists on YouTube today. Enter the E3 Wii Line video, uploaded by the user Kazi. This video shows the absurdly long line of attendees queuing to try out the Wii 1 month after its official reveal at E3 2005. For a long time, it was considered lost because the original YouTube upload had been deleted. But decades later, thanks to archives of Kazi's channel and resources like the Wayback Machine, the video could still be accessed and downloaded using apps like VLC. So now we can see what supposedly is the oldest Nintendo-related video uploaded to YouTube just months after the platform came out. However, after digging deeper, it turns out the story is a bit more complex than it seems. Initial sources claimed that E3 Wii Line was uploaded on June 14th, 2005, alongside other videos from Kazi like El Poder de Lynx. This would make it 3 whole days older than Nintendo's show. But evidence shows that while those 2 other videos truly appeared in 2005, E3 Wii Line is only reliably archived from May 20th, 2006. So what's the truth about this once lost video? Well, I have a pretty simple way to prove that this video didn't come out in 2005. In the first seconds of the E3 Wii Line video, hell, in the video's title itself, the word Wii is seen, which is a name Nintendo didn't officially adopt until 2006. This means it's impossible that this video came out in June of 2005, meaning Nintendo's show is the oldest video related to Nintendo on the platform. So while E3 Wii Line is no longer considered the very first Nintendo video on YouTube, it's still one of the earliest Nintendo-related uploads and a fascinating piece of once-lost media. Wii Self Defense. Wii Self Defense is a previously lost, now partially recovered prototype game for the Nintendo Wii, first revealed during a Bring Us Studios livestream in late 2024. This game, alongside another I'll talk about later in this video, were discovered on a development hard drive, or a Wii test kit. A person had found this hard drive, and then the Free Radical Archive group then purchased the games from that individual. The Free Radical Archive group, or FRD Archive, is a team that is dedicated to archiving every cancelled game from the development studio Free Radical. The discovery of this hard drive allowed the FRD Archive to make the games available, though they had to pay over $3,000 for the drive they were stored on. Anyways, what was up with Wii Self Defense? Well, Wii Self Defense was intended to be a fitness game that utilized the Wii's motion controls to provide an engaging workout experience. However, the project was never completed or released to the public, and its existence remained largely unknown before the aforementioned Bring Us Studios livestream from 9 months ago. The footage showcased a fitness-oriented game that combined elements of rhythm-based gameplay with physical motion controls. You could perform various martial arts-inspired moves, such as punches and blocks using the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, suggesting a focus on both fitness and interactive gameplay. It's basically just like a lower quality version of Wii Fit. So low quality in fact that I almost thought this was some fan-made slop, as fake Wii-related media is very common on YouTube. But no, Wii Self Defense was in fact a completely real game, just of very poor quality, probably because the title wasn't finished and cancelled early in its development. Notably, in one of Wii Self Defense's minigames, we can see a character that sort of resembles a Mii. However, it's clearly not a regular model, and is more in line with something you'd see in a third-party shovelware game. But yeah, overall, Wii Self Defense is a very strange piece of Wii lost media. Huge shout out to both Bring Us Studios and Centra, as they are the 2 channels which have uploaded footage of this game. Wii Car lost airings. Yes, you read that right, Wii Car. See, this image right here has fascinated me for quite some time now. This is a Toyota Scion XB, but if you have a keen eye, you'd notice there is a huge Wii logo just obnoxiously plastered on the side of this thing. So, cable TV network Comedy Central ran a Thanksgiving-themed promotion called the Thanksgiving Weekend over multiple years, those being 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, and 2010. Each year, the sweepstakes ran over several days of the holiday weekend. For example, the 2006 contest ran November 23rd to December 3rd, the 2008 contest ran November 27th to December 7th, and the 2009 contest ran from November 26th to November 29th, significantly shorter than the previous 2. Information about the 2010 promotion is very hazy, however it does exist as proven by this program list stating that it did air in November of 2010. To enter, viewers had to tune into Comedy Central during the event hours, which was roughly mid-morning through late evening, and note the on-screen code word announced each hour. For example, this website guide from 2006 advised people to watch Comedy Central all weekend and use this code keeper to track the 48 unique hourly codes you'll see on air. Enter your list of codes for a chance to win the infamous Wii Toyota. In the 2006 promotion, a Toyota Scion XB was given away. However, in their 2007 promotion called Ving Break, they were actually giving away a Toyota Scion XD, the smaller and more cost-effective brother to the XB. The promotions that came in the following years all reportedly gave away Toyota Scion XBs, but what I find really weird about this whole Wii Car story is how there's practically no sources out there that show anything regarding the 2008, 2009, and 2010 promotions, aside from small little crumbs that prove they existed. and this is where the lost media comes in. There's literally no pictures of the cars given away in 2008, 9, or 10, hell, not even a specific name for the programs like the first two had. So, could these be considered lost media? As of now, I'd say yeah, probably. No footage of these airings exist, no names of winners, nothing, aside from a few articles and program lists that prove they did in fact exist. There's just so much to this whole story that doesn't make sense, but I'm sure that with enough research, these programs could potentially be recovered if they even exist at all. Photo Channel Cat. If you ever looked at the banner of the Wii's photo channel, you may have noticed that a cat appears as one of the photos displayed. This same cat also appears in the Wii console manual, specifically in the Wii message board section. For the almost 20 years the Wii has been out, nobody has ever figured out whose cat this actually was, or if it was just a stock image. However, I have a theory that may prove this was someone at Nintendo's cat. So, firstly, I should probably answer the question of why is this cat in the photo channel's banner? Well, in a developer interview regarding the photo channel, who contributed to the development of some of the Wii's channels, was said to be a huge cat lover. It was also stated that Ito used cat pictures all the time in the sample photos they used during development, one of which ended up being used for the channel's banner. This was a picture of an orange cat laying in the grass. Take note of this because now I want to show you a stage from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. This is Pokémon Stadium 2. If you zoom in on this cabin in the background, you can actually spot a tiny picture of an orange cat, as well as a smaller black cat silhouette through this window. It was long rumored and kind of taken as a fun fact that this picture was Masahiro Sakurai's cat, though he apparently denied this. So I'm just going to assume that the origin of this photo isn't Masahiro Sakurai. Now take this picture and put it next to the cat from the photo channel, and yeah, they look pretty similar, almost as if they're the same cat. The pattern on their head looks kinda similar, although I don't know, that could just be a reach. It isn't known if Ito actually had any cats, but if he did, I'd put money on it that this was his cat and he was just putting it into random games. But who knows, I could be wrong, so for now, the origin of the photo channel cat is unknown. YouTube XL. YouTube XL on the Nintendo Wii was a popular way for users to watch YouTube videos on their TVs before dedicated YouTube apps became widely available. Since the Wii at the time didn't support a native YouTube app, users would access YouTube XL through the Wii's internet channel, which was a web browser based on Opera. YouTube XL may just be one of, if not the most obscure versions of YouTube. The Wii's limited hardware and resolution meant the standard YouTube website was too demanding and cluttered for smooth use. In simpler terms, the internet browser was so bad that it needed a special version of YouTube made exactly for it. Its simplified large text interface was designed specifically for TV screens and basic input methods like the Wii Remote. With YouTube XL, users could easily search for videos, browse categories, and watch content in a way that was far more comfortable and usable on the Wii's browser. While the video quality was still limited due to the Wii's hardware and internet capabilities, usually maxing out at like 480p, YouTube XL made the experience more accessible and enjoyable. It stripped away unnecessary features and focused on the core experience, watching videos. Eventually, as Nintendo was starting to figure shit out, YouTube got its own channel for the Wii that could be downloaded like every other Wii streaming service. And thus, YouTube XL was discontinued since it was basically useless now. The entire website as a whole has been shut down, but through the Wayback Machine you can see what it kinda roughly looked like. Not much really works, and you can only cycle through the same few videos, but hey, it's cool to look back at this once inaccessible Wii version of YouTube. The Wii60 Show. Around 6 years ago, discussion on Reddit would ensue about a lost 6-episode podcast called the Wii60 Show. It was a podcast run by two guys, Gerbil and Big Lou, who would literally just glaze the shit out of the Xbox 360 and Wii, all while trashing on the PS3 the entire time. I put on one of these episodes while working on this video that you're currently watching now, and man, I don't know what Sony did to them, but they did not fuck with the PS3. For a long time, only 3 episodes of this show were available, but as of writing this, you can now view all 6 on the Internet Archive. They also had a blog site which is available for viewing on the Wayback Machine. Cosmic Walker. In the fall season of 2008, Nintendo held a conference where they would share information about upcoming games, some of which were Punch-Out!, Sin and Punishment 2, Fling Smash, and Wii Sports Resort. But another game called Cosmic Walker was shown off too, one that went under many people's radars. This game was created by Gaia, which is a company founded by former employee of Atlas Games, Koji Okada. This company had released 5 games under their belt before working on Cosmic Walker. Up until this point, they had only created games for PlayStation systems and 2 mobile games for iOS in 2010. In this movie reel from the 2008 conference, this short 6-second clip of the game is all we really got, alongside 3 screenshots. In the footage, we can clearly see advanced spaceships and space stations, which suggests that the game takes place in the near future. The fact that this 6-second gameplay montage shows no traditional action sequences like gunfights or boss battles led some fans to the conclusion that Cosmic Walker might have a lot in common with a game like Endless Ocean. In those gameplay images, you can see that the astronaut utilizes a grappling tool, presumably executed by holding the B trigger to latch onto environments. In this screenshot, the health bar on the top of the screen is lower than it is in the other two, where it's at full, meaning that something caused the character to take damage along the way. What it was, who knows, because like I said, this is all we got. Cosmic Walker was the final project Gaia would work on before going defunct, as their website was inactive in 2010, following the release of Sword & Poker 1 and 2 for iOS. This led many people to believe that Gaia was finished. On October 6, 2010, an article was posted to NintendoEverything.com from someone speculating that Cosmic Walker and Gaia as a whole were probably gone. Gaia's website displayed nothing but a message apologizing for their closure.
Nintendo Week. Nintendo Week was a weekly series that ran on the Nintendo Channel for the Wii between 2009 and 2012. It served as a variety show that highlighted new releases, upcoming titles, and Nintendo news. It featured hosts Gary and Allison, who mixed gameplay previews, developer interviews, and comedy skits in a lighthearted TV-style format. Each episode covered major releases like Super Mario Galaxy 2, Donkey Kong Country Returns, and The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, often including exclusive footage or developer messages unavailable elsewhere. The show also tied into E3, Club Nintendo, and other special events, making it a fun hub for Nintendo fans to check weekly. As the Wii era came to an end and focus shifted to the Wii U, Nintendo Week quietly wrapped up and the Nintendo Channel was discontinued in 2013. As a result of this discontinuation, many episodes were not preserved or archived anywhere on the internet. While a handful have been re-uploaded to YouTube, a majority of episodes are completely unidentified and lost. Camp Hyrule 2006. Camp Hyrule was an annual online virtual camp website that was sponsored and moderated by Nintendo of America. It first opened in the summer of 1995 and emerged as Nintendo's biggest online event they'd probably ever hold. Camp Hyrule, which was usually held in August, allowed Nintendo fans to chat, play online flash games, and win prizes under the supervision of Nintendo employees. The last camp was in 2007, with no plans to host another Camp Hyrule. Specifically in 2006, the theme for Camp Hyrule was Super Mario Galaxy, as the Wii had released that year, and this was kind of a celebration of that. Many of the flash games that were available on CampHyrule.com in 2006 have not been preserved, with only 4 known games available on the Internet Archive. Those games are Camp Hyrule Meteor Shower, Camp Hyrule Virus Attack, Black Hole, and Stumpy SOS. I'm not sure how many flash games were playable for this year's Camp Hyrule, but these are the only ones which have been preserved.
Spore Hero Flash Game. In order to promote the Wii and DS games Spore Hero and Spore Creatures, a flash game called Spore 2D was created. In this lost flash game, you could create your Spore character and view it in 2D, rather than in 3D like the actual Wii game. It's reported that this game became lost sometime in 2012. All that exists of Spore 2D is a couple of gameplay videos as well as the SWF file, which can be found on the Internet Archive. However, the SWF file is missing a critical XML file, rendering the game useless as it's stuck on the loading screen. PXG Wii Review. PXG was a children's video game magazine show created by Prism Entertainment for Jetix UK, and it covered reviews, hints, tips, and cheats for all kinds of video games. The show covered games from the main 3 consoles at the time of its airing, those being PlayStation, Xbox, and GameCube, hence the title PXG. Notably, the host of this show has a very strong accent, almost to the point where it's hard to understand what he's trying to say.
Usually games that are based on the film stink worse than a cup of milk that is so old it's gone lumpy.
The production quality for this program was obviously very poor, which is probably a leading factor as to why it fell into obscurity. Originally, the show was broadcast in between programs on Jetix, usually only lasting like 2 minutes. There was also a long-form magazine show which compiled these intermission broadcasts into one long episode on Fridays, typically running for like 30 minutes. In one segment on the PXG show called Console Kids, the Wii would have a dedicated episode in which it was reviewed. This episode, as well as most of the other episodes from the PXG show, have become completely lost. What is known about this episode is that it was broadcast on a Monday, assuming it was aired in the second season of PXG. In the first season, console reviews were aired on Wednesdays, but when the show moved to Season 2, they were now aired on Mondays. It only makes sense to assume that the Wii was reviewed in Season 2, considering the console's release date.
Wii Phone Timotainment video. The Wii phone is a fake image that you may have seen circulating the internet, mainly because of this iconic 2008 YouTube video, Future Gen Consoles, Wii 2, PS4, Xbox 720. At 16 seconds in, the Wii phone can be seen. However, this isn't the lost media in question. A now lost 2019 YouTube video by Timotainment called Wii Phone was brought up on the Lost Media subreddit 3 years ago. The person behind the post stated that this lost video depicted a Wii phone floating around in space, followed by a low-pitched voice with reverb saying, "Wii phone." It was referenced in this video, which is still up on the platform. However, the original video is completely lost. The link to it is still up on the Internet Archive, but the video has not been preserved and does not appear to exist anymore. Although it makes sense to assume it would have looked something like the video I just showed you, and was probably no longer than 40 seconds in length. The Grinder. The Grinder is an unreleased first-person shooter game for the Nintendo Wii, developed by High Voltage Software. The game failed to meet its original release date of fall 2011, and has since remained unreleased. Although High Voltage Software has yet to make an official statement about what had happened to the game, it's obviously no longer in development and probably will never see the light of day. In The Grinder, players control one of 4 characters, each with their own unique attributes which can be upgraded as the game progresses. You would have had to use different techniques to defeat certain enemies, and would have had access to a large number of weapons. The game would also offer players complete customization of the controls, and was stated to support Wii Motion Plus. An online multiplayer mode also would have been included in The Grinder.
Now wait. Before I continue with this next piece of Wii Lost Media, I want to quickly thank NordVPN for sponsoring this video. You've probably heard of them, and for good reason. NordVPN lets you protect your privacy online, and it's honestly the kind of thing you don't even realize you need until you start using it. It keeps your data secure, lets you browse safely on public Wi-Fi, and you can even change your location to check out region-locked movies, websites, and other additional content. If you want to try it out and support the channel at the same time, head to the description and use my referral link when you sign up. You'll get to try it out with a free trial up to 77% off, plus 3 months free. Thanks again to NordVPN for making this possible, and now, let us continue with our next piece of Wii Lost Media. Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games iOS version. Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games was an iOS game released by Sega on the App Store on January 29th, 2010 to coincide with the Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympics, and was made to promote the 2009 Wii game Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games. However, only Sonic characters can be played, and only 4 Olympic events were available. Although Sega pulled the game from the App Store quite quickly, footage and screenshots of this game did exist. Aside from this though, the game was completely lost. That was until July 20th, 2019, when a user going by the name of MTB Cooler found an IPA file containing the app for Sonic at the Winter Olympic Games. MTB Cooler has since made the IPA file available to download, and the game has become a piece of found lost media. Silent Hill Cold Heart. Silent Hill Cold Heart was a pitch for a new Silent Hill game that eventually became Silent Hill Shattered Memories. This pitch came to light when the developers at Climax Studios held a competition to give away 8 copies of the document to fans, who since have uploaded it to the internet so that other fans can enjoy it. Cold Heart was planned in 2007 by Climax for the Wii and would have been published by Konami. Cold Heart would have followed Jessica Chambers, an athletic but emotionally vulnerable college student. The protagonist would have recently been talking to a psychiatrist after being plagued by horrific nightmares and being unable to sleep. These distressing circumstances lead to Jessica leaving her college town and going on a road trip to go back to visit her parents. On the way back, Jessica becomes caught in a blizzard and so follows an ambulance that leads her to the town of Silent Hill. This is where the game would begin, with Jessica stranded and needing somewhere to stay the evening. She explores the town, but now her nightmares start to become real. What's notable about this pitch is that it would have used the Wii Remote's motion controls in many different ways, such as to simulate a flashlight or for combat. Another feature that was mentioned was the integration of players' Mii characters, as well as their local weather and news. Climax wanted to be able to quote this in the game so that it would spook the player. Like if it was raining outside, it would be raining in the game. It was for immersion, I guess. Sadness. Sadness was a survival horror game in development by company Nebris for the Wii, and was actually one of the earliest titles rumored for the system. The game was pitched as a psychological horror title with a unique black and white art style and a focus on motion-controlled interactions. It was supposed to follow a Victorian-era woman named Maria and her blind son as they try to survive mysterious supernatural horrors in Eastern Europe. The developers claimed the game would use the Wii Remote in unconventional ways, like simulating holding a lantern or using a scythe to fend off monsters, all while emphasizing atmosphere over combat. From the start, Sadness gained a lot of attention for its ambitious ideas, but also skepticism due to the lack of concrete gameplay footage. Nebris repeatedly released concept art and written descriptions instead of in-game screenshots or trailers. They talked about features like branching storylines and deep psychological elements influenced by Slavic mythology. However, as the years went on, no playable build or even clear technical proof of the game's existence ever came out. By around 2010, the studio had shut down and Sadness was officially dead without a single second of gameplay ever being shown publicly. Wii Relax. Wii Relax is a cancelled Wii exclusive game. It was filed as a trademark but never released, and was speculated to be software for the Wii Vitality Sensor. The Wii Vitality Sensor was an ambitious peripheral announced by Nintendo in 2009, designed to measure a player's pulse and stress levels while using the Wii. It was shaped like a small clip, and the device was intended to attach to a player's fingertip and provide real-time biometric feedback. As intriguing as this sounds, the Wii Vitality Sensor faced significant technical and practical challenges, and Nintendo struggled to design software that would actually use this in a clever way. Due to these limitations, Nintendo quietly cancelled the Wii Vitality Sensor before it could ever reach the market. The game Wii Relax was announced on the internet as a placeholder name for some sort of game that would use this sensor. However, along with the peripheral itself, it was cancelled. Wii Sports Beta. The Wii Sports Lost Beta build, primarily known through archival footage and community research, is probably one of the most sought-after pieces of Wii lost media. Showcased at E3 2006, the beta notably featured an airplane minigame that was ultimately scrapped from the final release of Wii Sports. This early version of the game included 4 playable sports: tennis, baseball, golf, and the aforementioned airplane. Yes, boxing and bowling weren't even considered for the final release of the game until early 2006. This airplane minigame allowed players to pilot a small aircraft around a cartoonish island, navigating through rings within a time limit. This concept was notably similar to the later island flyover mode in Wii Sports Resort, suggesting that the airplane minigame served as a prototype for that. This island location also bears a large resemblance to Woohoo Island, the location used in Wii Sports Resort, Wii Fit, and Pilot Wings Resort. And while this all sounds cool, what if I told you there was a 6th Wii Sport planned to be released in this beta version, but it wouldn't even make it to E3 2006. This was Jetpack, a sport whose only evidence proving its existence is one screenshot. It's unsure if this image comes from an actual playable build of the game, or if it's just some mock-up image. The Mii appears to be using a Wii Remote jetpack of some sort, and they also have ears, which proves that whatever build of Wii Sports this came from had to have been close to the E3 beta, considering the Miis in that build also had ears. Footage for all of the main 5 sports are available on YouTube, however, an actual playable build of this beta Wii Sports has yet to surface. Maybe someday, but for now, it remains completely lost. Wii Fly. Game development studio Factor 5 planned to make a Pilot Wings Wii game and started developing it all the way back in 2007. Nintendo would eventually turn down the pitch, partially due to a Pilot Wings inspired mode in Wii Sports Resort, but that wasn't the end for a Wii version of Pilot Wings. The developers eventually connected with the publisher Green Screen Interactive and started development on this game, Wii Fly. The game itself was planned to be a realistic open-world title that let players fly around to a number of famous cities across the globe. Additionally, the game would tap into the Wii's weather channel to simulate the weather and time of day at each location at any given time. The coolest thing about this cancelled Pilot Wings Wii game is that there was a peripheral that Factor 5 was working on, which would let you control your Mii character's flight with your head movements. The only existing footage of this cancelled game is a 3-minute trailer. In this footage, the game looks kind of rough, but it's unknown how far into development this game was cancelled. It looks like the game had a lot of content from what was shown, but unfortunately the game would never release. Mii Keychains. In the H.A.M.M.E.R channel, which is probably a goldmine for lost media, there is this promotional image that can be found on the preserved H.A.M.E.R website, and it displays some sort of roulette minigame and card matching minigame. These games were playable back in 2010, and upon winning you could be sent a keychain with your Mii's face on it. Unfortunately, there's no footage of these minigames being played, or even proof of a physical keychain, so who knows if Nintendo was even fulfilling orders. They did do that whole Mii stamp thing, and those did end up getting sent to people's houses, so it probably wasn't much different with this. I did find very old Japanese articles and blogs claiming that they made these keychains, as well as tote bags and towels with their Miis on them, but photos were never provided. It's super unfortunate that region-specific media like this typically goes missing, although if any one of those people happen to see this video, maybe they still have these items. Obstacle Course Demo. The obstacle course was part of Nintendo's remote pointer demo used to illustrate the precision and responsiveness of the Wii Remote's pointer and motion sensing. This was available to play at E3 2006, a few months before the Wii's release. It bears a large resemblance to the Pose Me minigame from Wii Play. In this demo, you basically point at the screen and try to avoid obstacles and stuff. It honestly looked pretty cool, but like most demo showcases, the files to play these games elsewhere have not been released and probably never will. The $1 million Pyramid Early Build. Released for the Nintendo Wii on March 8, 2011, the $1 million Pyramid is directly based on the US game show Pyramid, a long-running program that began circulation on March 26, 1973. However, an early build of the game exists somewhere in the world that looked significantly different from the released version. Since the game was never really that popular, few reviews can be found on the internet. However, of the review sites that have a listing, people have noted that some screenshots from the game have a noticeably different color scheme and design than what was released. In August of 2020, a new screenshot of the game surfaced online showing the game with this different color scheme. In addition, the logo in the screenshot was a recreation of the show's 2002 logo instead of the released game's logo, which took inspiration from the 1973 iteration of the show. While the existence of the early version of the game has been confirmed, no ROM or disc has ever been found. Capuchin. Capuchin was a cancelled Wii game developed by the French indie studio No Culture around 2006 to 2008. It was conceived as an artistic, atmospheric adventure that blended elements of exploration and puzzle solving in a small dreamlike world. Funnily enough, the game was actually first created on PC as a Far Cry mod. The game centered around a child named Capuchin who lived in harmony with nature, and it aimed to tell a wordless story about the balance between life and decay. Although the concept trailer released online drew praise for its mood and artistic direction, Capuchin never moved past the prototype stage. The small student-led dev team lacked the funding and publisher support necessary to turn it into a full commercial release. Dead Space 2 Wii Port. Dead Space 2 is a sci-fi survival horror game developed by Visceral Games and released by EA in January 2011. The title saw a release on Windows, PS3, and Xbox 360. However, a Wii port of the game was also in development, but was ultimately cancelled. Little is really known about the Wii port's development, although at least 2 people are known to have worked on the port. This included the, at the time, EA employee Jerry Sakis, who claimed on his LinkedIn page to have been on the dev team, and also freelancer Matt Spriggins, who on his LinkedIn page stated he was a level designer. Their pages not only confirmed that a Wii port was in development, but also its cancellation in 2011 in favor of other projects. Wii Drums and Wii Orchestra. Wii Drums is a lost game that was shown off at the Wii's initial E3 reveal in 2006. The game is a very bare-bones version of the drum mode that was featured in the final release of Wii Music. However, this version contains no balance board support, considering that thing wasn't even shown off yet, and instead only had support for the Wii's motion controls. There was also an orchestra demo shown off at E3 2006, which really resembles the Wii Music Orchestra minigame, except there's one noticeable difference. Instead of using Mii's, the demo uses those really weird humanoid-looking characters, similarly to the other demos shown off in 2006, like the Wii Sports and Obstacle Course demos. God of the Game. God of the Game was a cancelled title being developed by Big Huge Games and THQ sometime before 2008. From the little info and concept art leaked from the project, it was stated to be a simulation and adventure game. However, when THQ was running into financial difficulties in 2008, the game was eventually cancelled. I could be wrong, but it appears to be related to the Pocket God mobile game, which has a very similar art style and premise. Although that game was created by Bolt Creative, who, as far as I know, had no involvement in the creation of God the Game for Wii. But like I said, there's very little info known about this game. Batman Arkham Asylum Wii. In 2009, Redfly Studio, known for its work on Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2 for the Wii, embarked on developing a port of Batman Arkham Asylum. This project aimed to bring the critically acclaimed action-adventure game to a broader audience using the Wii's unique motion controls. Despite the technical challenges posed by the console's hardware limitations, Redfly Studio initiated the development process with a small team. The development of the Wii port was relatively brief, with Redfly dedicating only a few weeks to the project. During this time, the team developed early prototype footage showcasing the game's potential on the Wii. These prototypes included basic gameplay elements, though they were far from the polished experience found on the original console versions. Eventually, the project was cancelled, and all that remains is the roughly 2 minutes of footage. Star Wars Battlefront 3. Earlier in the video when I talked about the Wii Self Defense game, you may remember me saying there was another game on the hard drive that the game was found on. And that game was none other than Star Wars Battlefront 3. This iteration of the game was intended to bring the expansive Battlefront experience to the Wii, incorporating the console's motion controls. Development began in 2006 after Free Radical took over from Pandemic Studios, who had developed the first 2 Battlefront games. The game was reportedly 99% complete by late 2008, when it was abruptly cancelled due to internal issues at LucasArts and a lack of marketing investment. What's craziest to me about this game, as well as Wii Self Defense, is that they basically cost thousands of dollars to preserve. Rabbids Channel. The Rabbids Channel was a Wii channel made specifically for the game Rabbids Go Home. While we know what this channel contained, there is no footage of any of this content. After opening the Rabbids Channel, you can connect with other Rabbids and use outfits on your Rabbid afterwards. Basically, it's like a version of the Check Me Out channel, but instead of sharing Miis like a normal person, you are sharing Rabbids. In a video titled Rabbids Expo Video, brief footage of the channel can be seen, showcasing what it looked like to view your Rabbid collection, but still the channel is unusable nowadays and no revival attempts have been made. Wii Sports Resort, Kendama, Fishing, and Water Slide. From an email interview with Wired Online magazine, Katsuya Iguchi, a Wii Sports Resort developer, shared some lost info about the massively popular game. We considered fishing and a waterslide activity before deciding on the final 12 events. As for more unconventional concepts, we created a pretty fun prototype of kendama, a traditional Japanese toy that just didn't fit the game's theme. These minigames were likely cut because, well, they just didn't really fit the theme of the game. Super Mario Spikers. Super Mario Spikers was a cancelled video game developed by Next Level Games. The project, initially dubbed Mario Volleyball, evolved into a more aggressive hybrid incorporating wrestling elements into the sports theme, ultimately being renamed Super Mario Spikers. Despite reaching a fairly advanced development stage, including concept art, animations, and stage designs, Nintendo rejected the project based on its level of violence, which clashed with their family-friendly code of honor. No footage or ROM of the prototype has surfaced online, and it's unknown if any archival copy remains within Nintendo or Next Level Games. Mario Kart Wii NVIDIA Shield port. First released in May of 2015, the NVIDIA Shield was initially marketed by NVIDIA as a microconsole, emphasizing its ability to play downloaded games and stream games from a compatible PC on a local network, or via the GeForce Now subscription service. As with all other Android TV devices, it can also stream content from various sources using apps, and also supports 4K resolution video. For some reason, only in China, the NVIDIA Shield would actually release with 4K quality remasters of Wii games, some of which included Mario Galaxy, Donkey Kong Country Returns, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Punch-Out!, and The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. These games were all officially released, but one was not, and that was Mario Kart Wii. Mario Kart Wii for the NVIDIA Shield was shown off in promotional videos, such as this one right here, but it would just never release to the public. My guess as to why it was scrapped is because of complications with online, as the Wii's online functionality had shut down far before the NVIDIA Shield was being released in China. This was back in 2017, mind you, 3 years after the Mario Kart Wii servers were dead and buried. Project H.A.M.E.R. Project H.A.M.E.R was a gritty first-party beat-em-up game in development at Nintendo Software Technology from around 2003, internally known as Machine X. Officially revealed at E3 2006, the game cast players as a cyborg named M09, wielding a massive hammer to battle waves of robotic enemies across near-future US cities. By 2007, NST and Nintendo's Japanese management were in a large feud. Western developers argued that the gameplay itself needed refining. Japanese developers called out repetitive motion mechanics, but senior executives insisted on revamping the environments for greater destructibility. Although reportedly on hold in 2007, funding was officially pulled in 2009, sealing the game's fate as cancelled and lost. Frisbee. Yeah, just Frisbee, that was the game's name. In 2007, Create Studios worked on a Frisbee game prototype for the Nintendo Wii, developed to demonstrate their new tech, like physics, impacts of wind and collisions with obstacles, and motion controls. This game may have been pitched to publishers as a cheap little shovelware kind of game, but it would just eventually never end up releasing. Wiiwa. Wiiwa was an unreleased Wii game developed by Zoink Games around 2008 to 2009, built around a bizarre but innovative concept. You would slide your Wii remote into the mouth of a real plush toy, and then use the toy itself as the controller. Movements of the plush would directly control an on-screen creature as you played through puzzles, levels, and minigames. The gameplay combined light platforming with pet care elements, and the animations and visuals were nearly finished. A trailer was even released in 2009, showing how the plush would be used to control everything from movement to interactions in the world. Despite a working prototype and a mostly finished build, Wiiwa faced serious hurdles that ultimately led to its cancellation. A spiritual successor called Wiiwa Rock On later launched on mobile, using the same character but ditching the plush controller. Megastar. Megastar is a cancelled music game that was being developed by EA Montreal in late 2009 with a release being targeted for the following year exclusively on the Wii. It was in the works for approximately 2 months, never advancing past the pre-production phase of development. According to an artist who worked on the game, it was being prepared as EA's response to Just Dance, which launched in November 2009. It was planned to have had similar Wii motion dancing mechanics to Ubisoft's game, but would have added its own twist in the form of a singing component via a USB microphone. Hasbro Family Game Night 3 Trivial Pursuit. Hasbro Family Game Night is a series of games created by EA in partnership with Hasbro, bringing their iconic board games to a video game format. And the game in question today, Hasbro Family Game Night 3, was released on October 26, 2010 for the PS3, Wii, and Xbox 360. This installment adapts 5 games: The Game of Life, Clue, Twister, Mousetrap, and Yahtzee hands down. However, in a 50-second trailer for the game, at the very end, the game's box art is shown on screen. And when taking a closer look, Trivial Pursuit is listed as one of the games included. No release of the game across its 3 consoles features Trivial Pursuit, so where did it go, and is there even any footage of this? To that I say not sure and no. Someone in the comments of this trailer speculates that the game was unfinished, and the actual game was trash, so they obviously rushed it up. What could be the case is that Trivial Pursuit was planned to release at the time this trailer was made, however, soon before its release they chose to cut it. Possibly because Trivial Pursuit got its own standalone game on the Wii, PS3, and Xbox 360, so including it in this game pack may have felt redundant or caused people not to buy that game. Pollen Sonata. Pollen Sonata is an experimental Wii prototype developed in 2007 by a group of 10 students from the Danish Academy of Digital Interactive Entertainment. The team built the prototype using Valve's Source Engine and created it as a part of a class project, with hopes of eventually bringing the game to Nintendo's Wii. The concept was unusual and artistic, focusing on pollination and environmental themes, and the team even put together a teaser video to showcase the idea to potential publishers and generate interest. Despite the ambition behind Pollen Sonata though, it never came to fruition. While there was plans to adapt the prototype into a full game, it lacked the funding and publisher support necessary to move forward. As time passed, the students graduated and went on to do other projects, leaving this prototype dormant. Burnout Freestyle. Burnout Freestyle is a cancelled racing game intended for the Wii and DS. It was developed by Criterion Games and was said to be published by EA as the first Nintendo exclusive Burnout game, before its development was shelved in favor of Criterion working on Need for Speed games. Burnout Freestyle would become the first in the series to receive a Wii release, while also being the second DS title. Burnout Freestyle wasn't really shown too much to the public before being quietly cancelled by December 2010. However, the game's existence was publicly confirmed when EA outsourced manager Paul Dibden provided information about the game and DS screenshots on his website. Ultimately, no build of Burnout Freestyle has ever publicly released. The screenshots indicate that the game had received some development prior to being shelved, but are the only viewable remnants of the title. No content from the Wii version has ever leaked, so all we have to go off of is some DS screenshots. Charlie Brown All-Stars. Charlie Brown's All-Stars was a baseball video game most likely based on the animated special of the same name, which is based on the Peanuts franchise. The game was being developed by Farside Studios and was to be published by Namco Bandai Games for the Wii, Xbox 360, PS2, and PlayStation Portable, but ended up getting cancelled before it was released. The game would have featured over 70 playable Peanuts characters. An advertisement for Charlie Brown's All-Stars was printed on the back of the instruction manual for the PS2 version of Snoopy vs. the Red Baron. The ad promised a release in 2007. But unfortunately, due to Farsight getting involved with too many projects and not having enough staff to work on this game, it was eventually cancelled. Wii Sports Mii Support Disc. This is the Wii Sports Mii Support Disc. It is currently unknown what the purpose of this disc was. The only copy of this disc that we know currently exists is extremely scratched, to the point where it was completely unrecognizable by the Wii's disk drive. It's speculated that the disc was intentionally destroyed by Nintendo, but we don't know this for sure. The disc's exact purpose is unknown, however, as the Wii menu has code to output an error if Mii channel data is corrupted, it is likely that this disc is intended to remedy that in some way. This is the error message shown when there is corrupted data in the Mii channel. As of January 2019, a copy of the Wii Sports Mii Support Disc has been obtained and has been sent for resurfacing, however the data hasn't been successfully dumped yet. Who knows if this disc would have brought up a unique program when inserted, or if it would have just slightly patched the error and prompt you to eject it. We'll probably never know, considering it's been 6 years since it was discovered. Mario Kart Wii 3D. In 2011, Nintendo would appear at the annual GDC, or Game Developers Conference, to show off what they've been working on and plan to release in the following year. One presentation in particular is of interest today, that being Hideki Kono's. At Kono's keynote, he mainly talked about the development of the 3DS, such as who was on the dev team, the hardware, and of course, the 3DS's big gimmick, stereoscopic 3D. Hideki Kono briefly talks about how the team was trying to make Mario Kart work with a 3D effect, so they whipped up a demo version of Mario Kart Wii to test things out. They actually rigged the Wii nunchuck with a 3D slider to toggle this visual effect. No footage of this demo being used was ever shown, and probably never will be, considering this was something only the developers would have used. We did see an image of this altered version of the nunchuck though, which I think is pretty cool. Garfield Gets Real. Garfield Gets Real was originally released for the Nintendo DS in 2009 as a tie-in to the animated film of the same name. Around this time, a Wii version was also planned, but it never saw release. While info about this cancelled Wii port is very scarce, enough context exists for me to kind of paint a clear picture of what likely happened. So, the DS version of Garfield Gets Real was met with overwhelmingly negative reviews. Critics cited its poor controls, uninspired gameplay, and technical problems, with Metacritic giving it a score of 39 out of 100. Because the DS version underperformed, the publisher had little incentive to continue investing in a Wii version that would have required additional time and resources. The Wii version also would have released after the movie's peak relevance, meaning the tie-in marketing power was mostly gone. Without that momentum and the Garfield brand losing traction in gaming at the time, the Wii port would have just been a tough sell. Hey everybody, thank you all so much for watching today's video. Make sure to go check out both of the very talented creators that featured in this video. Now, before I go, I just want to shout out all of my amazing channel members. Amory316, Josotron, Inkun number 3, Asab, Young Pump, Young NB1334, Dimitri Cohen, and Saris Ellen. Thank you all for your support. I'll see you all soon. Goodbye.